What is going on, YouTube? Thanks for joining us here at the Tilted Top. And today we fired up Disney Plus and checked out the newest Disney Pixar movie, Soul. And let me tell you, it's got me a little heated. And warning, there will be spoilers.
You mad?
Yeah, slightly, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
But before we jump into the review, be sure to show your support by hitting the like and subscribe button. So Sean's going to take it away, talk about the movie.
A musician who has lost his passion for music is transported out of his body and must find his way back with the help of an infant soul learning about herself.
All right, pretty basic.
I mean, yeah, have you seen the trailer or anything? Yeah.
And this is another movie where I didn't look at the trailer or the actors or anything until after.
Man,
so
that must be a nice way to go into these movies.
It's interesting. I've seen a lot of bad movies because of it, but
Fair enough.
All right. So, what did you think about the movie overall?
Overall, I enjoyed it. Overall, it started off a little. For me, it started off a little slow. I was kind of having a hard time getting into it, but like any Pixar movie, it eventually grabbed me, and by the end of it, I was sucked in and feeling it.
Yeah. Sure. As for me, I don't really watch too many animated films, but it's weird because I end up liking most of them.
Well, I mean, especially nowadays, I feel like if you're watching the big ones like Pixar or Disney, DreamWorks, you know, there's some new companies popping up like Leica. They're always making their stories are a little bit heavier now. You know, they try to aim a bit kind of teeter that border between adult and kid movie.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. The adults are the one that are going to sit through it in the theater or have to buy it or put it on. So, that balance, you really need to have it. You can't lean too far in one direction. And as far as this movie goes, I don't think, I do think they did a good job at that. It didn't seem like too childish or too focused on adults. It had stuff for both adults and kids, to enjoy in this entire movie.
Yeah, for such a heavy subject too.
Yeah. So you said that it was a little slow to get into.
There was just something about the beginning where I just wasn't really being sucked into it. I don't know what to say. It just wasn't catching me until it was even after a little bit after he died. Where maybe it was once they introduced 22 is when I kind of started getting into it more.
Yeah, that's kind of where to me the story starts. It doesn't start at his death, more when he meets 22 and sees what's going on with that. But I actually liked the beginning, and I think that's just because I could relate to it. I really like music, so. When the guy he's a jazz musician. I don't like jazz at all. I think jazz is just ridiculous. But, when he's teaching the music but doesn't really want to because he has big dreams of performing and he has an audition and it doesn't go well and people are telling him to abandon that because music doesn't make money. All this. I was like, I can relate to this.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciated those early scenes. They just, I guess for a Pixar movie, I was just I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen a new Pixar movie, and I was just expected to just be like blown away, sucked in right away, and that's just my own expectations.
Yeah. What was the last one you saw?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I watch all of them, so whatever the latest Pixar movie was, I've seen.
I don't remember the last one either that I saw. So.
Well, I have a 2-year-old, so. We're watching all kinds of Disney and Pixar movies all the time. So at this point, they're all kind of jumbled up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I'm sitting at home with my Little Caesars pizza, just eating right out of the box, watching, kid movies. That's how I roll. But the actors are, so what was it? Jamie Foxx
and Tina Fey were
they're
Joe
the main
22.
Ones. Yeah. And, when it comes to these animated movies, though, I think people do good if I don't notice anything wrong with the voices. Because most of the time I'm watching animated shows, cartoon, anything that's animated, I really don't pay attention to the voices at all. And I think that's the success. It's when you start picking out and like, wait a minute, that's a terrible voice. Something's wrong or it doesn't fit. But I didn't get that impression from
Yeah,
this movie.
I really like the voices in this, and like all the Jerrys and stuff. I like how they're like all like um I love their accents. How some of them were what English, and then I think that there's like a New Zealand accent in there. It's hard to tell exactly where some of them are from, but I just loved how all of them were hitting.
Yeah, I think it was done by three different people. And because, well, you had
Well,
a male Jerry, a female Jerry, and then you had a Terry.
yeah,
So,
Terry, Jerry, and Jerry. Yeah.
yeah. And I actually like Terry.
Well, one of the Jerrys was actually by Richard Ayoade. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's from the It Crowd. Did you ever watch
I've
that
seen
show?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
That voice sounded familiar.
yeah the dude with the glasses and the curly hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was
I
one of
think.
the voices, and then Graham Norton was actually Moonwind. He was
Which one was Moonwind?
the hippie guy.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So side characters did great. I think everyone did great when it came to the voices in this movie, I think.
I mean, yeah, this movie also has people like Questlove and Donald Rawlings and Angela Bassett in it. It has a pretty star-studded cast. Just a lot of them are kind of small roles, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was just the casting was great. They sounded like they enjoyed doing this movie. As far as just the audio in general, I have to give it up to Disney Plus for having that Atmos soundtrack, and it just sounds amazing. Like Disney Plus has a way of making all their movies look crisp, sound crisp, and during the bass parts, my walls were shaking. So I'm like, all right.
I don't have Atmos, but there was a part towards the beginning of the movie when they're in the band room playing, and one of the kids like throws part of his instrument or something past the camera, and I heard that go all the way to my back speakers, and I was like, "Ooh, that's
Yeah,
nice."
that's how that should be. Netflix needs to learn. I don't know what they're doing. Step it up.
Yeah. So, story wise, was there anything that stood out to you story wise, or anything, or how'd you feel about this kids movie about death?
Okay, so that's
About
where the heated part
a kids
comes.
movie about a middle aged guy dying.
Yeah, and that's why I'm heated.
Okay.
Because I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, oh, I want to feel a good movie. And, during the entire movie, I had a smile on my face. With these Pixar movies, I'm not usually like laughing out loud or doing anything like that. Like small chuckles, I'll be smiling and they're like, oh, that was clever. And that happens a lot. So that's what I was expecting throughout the movie. And then, when they get to further in the movie and it talks about Joe's life and how sad and crappy it is, and it shows him like he's watching TV or he's in a restaurant eating alone, and all these things are just sad, and I'm like, man, that's my life right there.
Oh man.
So as it goes on, and the overall message is, you need to basically live your life,
Overall
enjoy the
message
little
is you're
things.
gonna die alone.
Yeah. No, you got the wrong message.
Oh, my bad.
But yeah, it just says little things, enjoy them. Whether it's a slice of pizza or just like a falling leaf off a tree, the sounds, the smell, just everything about life. It's not about one thing. So it's not about just making money, or it's not all about just, being the best at an instrument and doing that. There's more to life. Everything you do is life.
It was just living. That's what I took from the movie. The point of the movie is just live. Yeah, like you said.
Yeah. And it made me mad because I'm sitting there in the chair like, damn, this movie's calling me out because I'm not living. I'm not doing a damn thing. Which I'm kind of mad that it made me feel that way. But at the same time, that's the power of this movie.
Yeah.
I think if it could make someone feel like that, that was the message it was trying to get across, and it was entertaining the whole way.
A lot of Pixar's kind of standalone movies are a bit heavier with their messages, with like Wall-E and just
Yeah.
global warming and people, everybody's in the future's fat, rolling around on hover
Little
or
scooters.
on their little scooter things, yeah, and then or like Up, The first like 7 minutes of Up is just like
Yeah.
waterworks, and they tend to do that a little bit more with. I mean, all their movies they aim for your heartstrings, but it seems like their standalone movies tend to try to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, I think they have to because they're appealing to the adults. Because I know a kid's not going to watch and be like, "I need to live life. I wasted it." They're not going to think that way. But then when they're older, if they rewatch this, in their 20s, they're going to think of it differently. In their
Yeah.
30s, and even like in their 50s or 60s, depending on how they live their life, it could hit them. So I think Pixar likes to go for timeless.
Yeah, for sure. Is that how? So you feel like this is a timeless movie?
I think so. Now, it's not one of those things where I'm going to watch, every week or every month or maybe even every year. But I'm like, oh, I remember that movie maybe 5 years down the road, and I watch it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And then I'm gonna be like, was I living? And I'll be like, no. Just
I don't. I don't know if this movie left that same impression on me, but I get what you're saying. I definitely enjoyed the movie for sure, and I enjoyed the chemistry between Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey. I thought they did great together.
yeah,
And I was not expecting the body swap aspect of this movie at all. Where he jumps into the cat, she jumps into him, and then she like learns what she loves about life, actually being able to experience
yeah,
it. Which I saw a note saying that at one point 22 was the main character, and in the version 22 had a dislike for Earth. However, the film took place entirely in the Soul World, and Joe was created to help show her why Earth was worth living in an early version of the film.
I don't know how I felt about that.
Well, obviously, I think that they made the right changes to
Yeah,
get to where
yeah,
they got to, And then this is also the first first African American lead in a Pixar movie. So,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Didn't occur to me. I'm like, all right. I was like, jazz, of course, makes sense.
Yeah.
Would you? But
Oh, Onward. Onward was the last Pixar movie I watched.
Onward, haven't seen it.
That's that's actually one with Tom Holland and Star Lord, Chris Pratt,
Okay.
and that movie's actually a pretty heavy movie too, where kid's dad dies, and he wants his wish is to see his dad, and they go on like a crazy adventure.
Yeah.
But
They're getting deep.
yeah, that one
But
deals with death too, I guess.
I like how they just in Soul they just gloss over his death a little bit because I'm like, oh, how's this guy gonna die? And he just falls down a manhole. Like,
Yeah, I knew that part because that part's in the trailer.
I had no
But
idea. So I'm
yeah.
like, that's it. But then I was like, well, that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of comical. That's how it ends.
I like how quick it was, though. I mean, it is a kid's movie and stuff. I'm glad that they didn't like zoom in on his body. Oh, one thing that came to mind too, I mentioned this to Anna, was I would expect somebody who fell down a manhole maybe to have a couple broken bones or something. I kind of chalked that up to this being a animated kids
Yeah.
Pixar movie, but he had zero physical damage at all.
How deep are manholes? I don't even know.
Enough to kill you, apparently,
Well,
or at
in the
least put you
Disney
in a
World,
coma.
they're not trying to be gruesome here.
I know. I'm just saying, if somebody fell down one of those in real life, they'd probably
Yeah.
be pretty banged up. Where he seemed to have zero physical damage. Like put him in a cast. I know you can't put him in a cast because he needs to play the piano. I don't know.
I don't know. That would have been some good insurance money, though. An uncovered manhole. They didn't put like safety things around it.
And then that kind of leads to another question where uh, all the people in a coma, are they in a similar situation? Like how does that kind of makes you think a little bit in this world how that works.
So the only thing I explained it in my mind. So guy walks, falls down the manhole, and then you get transported in the about to die stage, where you're going up the escalator.
Yeah, which I thought that was kind of clever, and I like the responses from people around him when he first gets there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The little responses, little small jokes are pretty funny in this movie.
Hmm.
And they also I don't think they ever call it heaven. I
No.
think they just say the beyond is
Yeah.
where he's going.
Hmm.
But I thought as soon as he passes that and gets through, that's when he's going to actually die and go from the coma to death.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna let that that go a little bit.
I know what I'm saying, but in reality, there's a bunch of people in comas. So what?
They're
I
probably
don't know.
hanging
This is getting
around.
kind of dark. We don't need to talk about this.
Yeah, those coma people are probably hanging around in that. I want to call it limbo, but I don't think it was called that. Was it the zone?
What, the part with the escalator?
No, when with the pirate ship and everything,
Oh,
where the lost souls
the
and
lost
everything are.
souls. No,
What do they
that
call that?
yeah, that was just kind of like the zone, or I forget what they called it exactly, but
Yeah, it's probably
yeah.
just called the zone. That's what I'm remembering. But so if you're in the zone working on anything or doing something, meditating, in the middle of a song, I guess you get transported somewhere. And
Hmm.
that's one of those things where like, all right, we're gonna let it slide because more people would be walking around that zone or realizing it happened, but
Yeah,
everyone's kind of like stuck in their own little bubble.
yeah,
I did like how 22 was breaking everyone's bubble in the zone,
hmm,
and it was
yeah,
like hinting on, oh, that's what happens when you're like doing something and you just forget what you're doing.
yeah,
It's a little soul that's messing with you.
yeah. And I'm a basketball NBA fan and stuff, so that she said I've been messing with this team for years, messing with the New York Knicks. That's pretty good. They got a little chuckle out of me. There was a part where
Yeah.
the part in the film where he's trying to line himself up, but he's the cat holding the clippers. He's
Oh
like
yeah.
standing on the records, right? We have a cat that looks kind of similar to that cat. So when that part happened, my wife laughed for about 5 minutes straight. I had to pause the movie, go get a snack, and come back while she was still laughing
Yeah.
because it just reminded she just couldn't get that image out of her head of our cat doing that to me. So I throw that in there. This might have been the most hilarious Pixar movie to her because of that.
And
Not
I
to
mean,
you though.
not to me. I don't have a cat, so. But I did like the cat scenes. I like when they switched. I didn't expect it either. Um, and then just the animation and acting from uh, 22 being Joe. I thought it was pretty entertaining the entire time.
Oh yeah, that reminds me of one part that bugged me a little bit, which
Yep.
I remembered. I was trying to remember, but I forgot about it. But you just reminded me. The part when he's talking to his mom, and it like goes from the shot of the cat telling, like he's telling 22 what to say, right?
Yep.
But when it goes over her shoulder, it just looks like he's saying everything.
Yep.
Again, I understand that it's a cartoon and it's little creative interpretation stuff, but for some reason that's kind of I didn't really like how it just looked like it was 100% coming from him, like all of
Yeah.
his body language and everything seemed too like
To
I
Joe
think
like.
I think I might have liked it a little better if he was a bit more stiff and
Yeah.
as if it was 22 actually saying it, but it didn't feel like 22 actually saying it.
Yeah. I agree. I let it slide,
Yeah,
but I
yeah, I
remember
let it slide,
watching
but
it and I was like, because I thought that she was just gonna like 22 was gonna go off on her own. Like she's been doing this entire time, not listening to Joe, saying what she feels and going through that. I thought that the emotions and trying to convince his mom was going to be her doing,
yeah,
because out of nowhere Joe was like, you know what, I'm going to somehow explain all this to my mom and she's just gonna understand, even though he's been living that life for I don't even remember how many years.
yeah. I kind of
So
thought, yeah, I was kind of leaning that same way toward too because it seemed like she was kind of having an effect with the other people in his life.
yeah.
So yeah, it kind of seemed like the way it's going, but
Well, it also made it seem like Joe is just a bad person. Also, like he is self absorbed. He never asked anyone, like his barber, like what was going on. He only wanted to talk about jazz. Is all about him and his goals. So
yeah, even at the beginning of the movie when he's like talking about like when he steps out of the classroom for a second and he's like, "Oh, thank you, I needed a break." my ears are bleeding, or he didn't say
Yeah.
my ears are bleeding, but he's basically like, these kids all suck. And then the one kid walks out and goes, no, not you, you're good.
I
But
thought that was funny because he's like,
it was funny, but
but
it
he
just,
really sucks.
yeah. Yeah, he definitely, which of course is part of that character redemption, because at the end he's willing to sacrifice himself and everything. So
Yeah, I heard they were having different endings for that too. When they were just like you said, the whole story was kind of different. In the end, I was reading somewhere that it was like, oh well, Joe wasn't gonna live, or we were gonna cut away and show Joe living like a year later, things like that.
did you
Because I
watch
was
any
like,
special features?
no, I didn't. Did they have special features on this one?
I don't know. I assume they did. Disney Plus usually has special features with their
Oh,
stuff. So.
no, I didn't watch this one for some reason. I didn't look for it. But yeah, I was because it could go either way. This movie could have been good, the way it ended, or how it is, or even if they picked another ending where Joe didn't live. Because I thought he was going to die permanently and become a mentor, and that's where he was going to find, his joy by sending souls. But that didn't happen. But
Yeah,
would have worked.
yeah,
Maybe a
for
little,
sure.
little slightly darker that he didn't live.
Yeah, there's some special features on this.
I'm
Nothing
gonna have
crazy.
to
Like
check him
no,
out.
looks like there's no like into the zone, great jazz, not your average Joe. Pretty deep for a cartoon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the music was good too. If you like jazz, I mean, I couldn't
Actually,
get into it.
well, one of the musical parts that I liked the most was at the end when 22 was flying down to Earth and Joe was holding her hand,
Mhm.
and then there's kind of like that 80 like synth music playing. I like that. Did you notice that at all? That music that was playing then as they're falling
No,
towards Earth.
no, I can't recall.
It felt more. Felt like more belonged in Wonder Woman 1984, but I liked it.
Yeah, this is. I'd rather watch this movie than Wonder Woman. But
I was also expecting a little bit longer of an ending instead of him just walking out of his door and that was it.
yeah, but what? Okay, the only part that I felt needed to be explained a little more wasn't he like in love with some girl?
Yes, that's briefly mentioned.
Yeah, they just glossed over that. Like I thought maybe 22 was gonna fix that situation, or like you said at the end, maybe he would have,
Called her or done something involving her.
yeah, at least made a date,
Yeah.
and then we could be like, oh, okay, we see he changed. Now he's trying to live, and he knows that he really likes someone, so he's gonna go for it.
Yeah, Anna brought that up too. She thought that he was going to do something involving that. I kind of thought what was going to happen was he was going to come back, and because I was getting the vibe this whole movie that his true calling or passion or whatever you want to call it was actually teaching, because they've really nailed it on the head that he's actually a really good teacher. And
Yeah, I had the same feeling for a while.
yeah.
Also,
So for a while there, I thought it was going to end with him teaching a student in the future that acted a lot like 22 did.
yeah, I would have liked to see that. I mean, it might have been a little too cheesy and everything, but
It's a kids movie, so I was kind of expecting something like that. But
yeah, because I really was like, I wonder if she's gonna be somewhere in his life.
yeah,
Somewhere, anywhere.
I was expecting there to be a future shot where their paths crossed somehow. With obviously
Yeah.
she doesn't know, but he still remembers and he notices it's her. Whether it's like a little girl picking up one of those little uh, leaf things, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, those, or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? I thought that there
Yeah.
might have been something like that, but no, they just ended it with him walking out his door.
Yeah. So and the runtime for this is an hour and 40 minutes, and it didn't feel that long to me because I
About
think I
as-
was enjoying it.
Yeah, about as
So,
long as Wonder Woman should have been.
Yeah. So I mean,
Sorry, I keep comparing them so much. It just came out on the same day, so there's kind of a direct comparison in that sense, because there's a lot of people's like, should I have watched this? Should I watch this? I think,
watch Soul.
yeah,
But they could have added 10 more minutes, and I would have been totally fine with it if they wanted to add a little, after he comes back to life, or if they wanted to expand on the girl he's interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been completely fine with, watching an hour and 50-minute movie like this
Yeah.
because it wasn't dragging. It really wasn't. It was over, and I'm like, I felt like, kind of disappointed. I'm like, oh, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt the same way too. This movie went by just fine. At one point we paused, like I said, when she was laughing hysterically, we paused around that time and there's still a decent amount of time left. And I was like, oh, dang, really? Like, I mean, this feels like it's flying. Like I haven't felt like I've been watching this for an hour,
Yeah.
but the fact that there's an hour, it was like the 50-minute mark or something. So
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite joke in this? Was it the Knicks one that really got you?
that might have been, that was a pretty good one for me.
Yeah, it didn't hit as hard for me because I'm not really, basketball fan. So when they did it, I was like, oh, they must be sucking this whole time.
Yeah, they've been pretty bad for
But
a long
yeah,
time.
but it didn't hit me. So I'm like, oh, that's just a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure other people that follow the Knicks will be like, that's hilarious.
Some jokes that did not hit with me in this was the historical figure jokes. Those didn't hit with me.
Yeah, there's one that I like. Which one are you?
There's
Just
none of
all of
them
them?
that I could think of that really hit with me.
I liked when she was talking about like the Lincoln, when she was talking to
Yeah,
Lincoln and
yeah,
talking about the
that
whole
was a,
penny thing.
that was a decent one, I guess.
Yeah. But I guess the montage when they were just all mad at her for some reason, they went through all the historical figures. I mean, it could have been better. I think they could have used that
Yeah, and they
better.
seem really nonchalant in this beyond about when stuff goes wrong, right?
What do you mean?
Well, they're just like, "Hey, we're off by one," and then they're like, "Eh, whatever. I'm sure it'll work out."
I just assume like that's on Terry to fix.
I mean, I
Like
guess. I
she's the
mean,
only one that cares.
I mean these beings are living in eternity, so I guess it's like, whatever.
Yeah. But so overall, closing kind of remarks here. What would you say to sum up your feelings about this movie?
I liked it. Not my favorite Pixar movie, like I said. Definitely not towards the bottom. I think it's definitely worth a watch, especially if you still haven't watched either this or Wonder Woman, and for some reason you're still weighing those options. I would definitely go for this one for Soul. But yeah, I mean, it's a Pixar movie. Pixar, unless you're watching Cars, then Pixar does pretty much no wrong.
I've never watched Cars, but I've heard
I
things.
mean, Cars is basically 90% for toys. You know, they make so much money off of the car toys. And those are those are more heavily geared towards kids, obviously for the toys and everything. So they kind of just keep
Yeah.
pumping those out for the toys. But yeah, anyway, definitely worth a watch if you, especially if you have Disney Plus. I mean, Disney Plus is putting out a lot of new content and stuff, and this is probably going to be the only Pixar full length movie that goes straight to Disney Plus because theaters are going to start opening back up. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
What
All
about you?
right. So overall, I think it was a great movie for both kids and adults. I think if you are an artistic person, like a musician, there's going to be little things that you're going to pick up in there that you can relate to, and it's going to make it even better. The jokes, not all of them are going to make you actually laugh out loud or anything like that, but you're gonna smile. There's some clever jokes in there, and overall, I think
You
it's
said
a
you won't laugh out loud? Did you
yeah.
not hear me telling you about how
Unless
Anna was laughing for 5 minutes straight?
unless you have a cat that
if
looks
you're a
like the
cat,
character.
if you're a cat lover, you might adore this movie.
That's true. Uh,
Oh, speaking of that, there was a couple times like where they run into the cat's owner, like on the subway, and she's holding the cat carrier, right?
yep.
Uh, a little too neat for me. When they bump into the band on the street out of the cab,
Oh yeah.
we're in New York City. Like, dude, I don't think people are bumping into each other that often, like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That
Little
was,
things, but like it's a cartoon, so I let that kind of. If this was happening in Wonder Woman, I'd be more marks down for that movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they definitely did kind of pop out of nowhere at a convenient sake for the movie, just to land some jokes or put some drama in there. Uh, but yeah, I think it's great. I think everyone should watch it. Pick this movie over Wonder Woman. Um,
Would you have been disappointed if you would have paid to see this in a theater? I know you probably wouldn't have in the first place, but would you have?
no, I'd have been fine if I
Yeah,
actually paid for it.
me too.
I'm okay with this movie, which I think is the first one we reviewed that I'm like, I'd be okay to see it in the theater.
I think
So,
yeah, it is.
well, we've only done this is the fourth one, so
Hey, that's huge for me to hear from Pedro.
right. So we have all these big blockbuster movies out here, and I'm like, I think the best movie is the Pixar one on Disney Plus.
It's a good movie. It's Pixar. I mean, like I said, Pixar rarely goes really goes wrong. You know.
Yeah, but that's all I got for this. You got any other remarks before we close out?
Um, no, sir. I think that's it.
All right, so that is all we have. Make sure, again, to show your support, like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you think about Soul or any other movie that you'd like us to review. I don't think we have a plan for the next one. There will be a next one, but we're not sure what it's
We're
going to
gonna
be yet.
we're gonna keep pumping these out, and then also WandaVision is starting mid January, and we plan on doing that one, right?
Yep, yep,
The
yep. That's going to be interesting.
MCU Disney Plus show.
Yeah,
And what?
I'm hoping that it's going to be quality because I'm going to be comparing it to The Mandalorian.
Are you familiar with these characters at all?
I know who they are. I don't know
Pedro
how
will do
familiar
a
I need to
little
get.
bit of homework so you could get a little bit caught up at least.
No, if it's a good show or movie, it should be able to stand on its own without me researching the comic or the past movies.
You should
I think.
probably, I mean, it's a TV show, and all the there's going to be I mean, you might enjoy it, but it's definitely going to be a different connection than I will have with it since I'm fully up to date with these characters and everything and as far as the MCU goes.
Hey, I saw Ant-Man too. That's good enough.
Have you seen Avengers Infinity War or Avengers Endgame?
I saw the last one. Good enough. All right, we'll see everyone next time.